American culture is a competition-driven culture, society, which tends to see failures or kind of losses as the collapse of every attempt or endeavor. And this is kind of a moralistic approach to research, because there is no research that does not entail failures. Actually, failures are the only condition to learn and to bring new ideas forth, and not kind of protect ourselves in a safe space where we say we innovate, but we're actually doing the same thing with a slight variation to be on the safe side. The opposite of competition in the Italian milieu that I would like to point is the creative notion of limit. The idea of limit not as an obstacle, but rather as a resource, as a creative resource. In this sense, a culture that is well-fed, like the American cultures, has apparently endless resources, thinks of limit in a little bit less than a culture like Italy that has constraint as its center. Everything is difficult in a way, both geographical constraint, social constraint, and not like this general endless availability of resources. Now, in this sense, limit is not an obstacle, but actually is the condition that forces us to think on how to use well what we have. You think about cooking, well, you can have like the nice part, the nice chunk of the key ingredient of a recipe, or forget about what is left over, or you can start from the leftover and use the leftover creatively. And this is how Italian cuisine actually developed. It's a cuisine that interpreted the leftover in a creative sense. Limit was also the creative force behind the emergence of Ferrero. So Nutella, Nutella, was born because, like in the post-war years in northern Italy, in Piedmont, Michele Ferrero faced a scarcity of cocoa that was not available during that time. And the only ingredient that was available in his region was actually hazelnuts. So what he did was he saw the limit as a creative input to develop the hazelnut chocolate spread that turned into the Nutella. The last limit that we're now used to talk about is actually death. American culture is very afraid of death. In the Franciscan tradition, death is always addressed as sister death. Why? And in observing this, I want to mention something that comes from my classical studies, so from the Aeneid of Virgil. Virgil, the ancient poet, actually described the gods of the Roman mythology as very sad gods, because he did not envy their endless, meaningless life. And he said, actually, death is what allows us to live our life not wasting it, because if we were to live forever, we would waste our time. And this is something that unfortunately happens with a lot of like people in the younger generations that like kind of don't have the sense of the limit of their time. The limit of death is actually what stirs in us the need to formulate new solutions, or to leave a sign in the world around us, and actually to make something of our life, to make it a real masterpiece. So the limit, paradoxically, stirs the creative energy to make something interesting of our lives, to make our life the real enterprise, the real jewel. In this sense, the creative notion of limit is a good antidote to the obsessiveness of competition, which is great, but the word competition actually means competere, to search together. We rarely have this idea of competition as a common search, but we normally abide by I win, you lose.